Welcome to Wii Vault, a series on this channel where I take a look back at old Wii games, see if they're good, if they hold up today, and if they should come back. This week's guest, Spider-Man Web of Shadows, ending an almost trilogy in this series where I took a look back at some Spider-Man games that I played a lot growing up. This being the final one of the big three for me. I've already got videos out on Edge of Time and Shattered Dimensions, so check those ones out. But Web of Shadows, decision-based Spider-Man game, released in 2008, developed by Shaba Games and Treyarch, published by Activision. This being the last Treyarch Spider-Man game before Beenox got the rights and made Shattered Dimensions and Edge of Time. This game was obviously released on the Wii, as well as the PlayStation 2 and 3, the Xbox 360, Windows, and as well as two portable systems, the DS and the PSP. This was the first game since the Raimi trilogy, and is the first one since the Raimi trilogy and the tie-in games came out to not have anything to do with any of the movies. Now, let's dive in to Spider-Man Web of Shadows. Like I said, Spider-Man Web of Shadows is a decision-based game, so I'm going to tell through the story. It's mostly the same up until the end, but I'll still try to tell you what the differences would be based on the decisions you make. This game does the thing where it starts midway through the story, and Spider-Man has a, yep, that's me, bet you're wondering how I got here kind of moment, where it then cuts back to where the story really begins, with Spider-Man and Venom in a intense battle with MJ injured next to the fight. You fight Venom, you beat him, and then you pick up MJ and swing off to the hospital, hoping that she'll be fine. Once you get to the hospital, there is then just a gang shootout right outside of the hospital. Spider-Man intervenes, starts to, beat up all the criminals when Luke Cage appears to kind of help him out, finish everything off. Luke Cage appearing starts the first little section of this game where you fight different gang members and we fight different gang members in the middle of a gang war, as well as it being the tutorial section almost for the game where you kind of learn different fighting techniques with Luke Cage. And if you're wondering about MJ, she was fine. I think she just kind of either fractured or sprained her wrist, but is fine otherwise. But she suspects that Spider-Man has the symbiote on him. She warns him against using it, and it's kind of up to you to decide if Spider-Man listens to her advice or not. As you fight these different gang members with Luke Cage, you get each side to sit down to a parlay and, talk things out. Luke Cage is the one actually doing the sitting down with the gang leaders, while Spider-Man just kind of patrols the area to make sure nothing goes wrong, when a absolute army amount of snipers just appear to try to take out these gang leaders and keep the gang war going. It's two waves of 16 snipers. There's just randomly 32 high-tech snipers ready to continue this gang war, which Spider-Man defeats and then finds evidence that this gang war has been puppeteered by somebody. And this leads to the first decision you can make in this game. Decisions in this game are either red suit / good decisions or black suit evil decisions. If you make the good decision in the game, you just present the evidence to the gang leaders, and the gang war is solved peacefully. Or the black suit decision of not showcasing that information and letting them fight it out, either getting arrested or killing each other in a shootout. And that's what ends the gang war. This will also affect your relationship with Luke Cage, because he'll find out if you hid it or not immediately. It's not something that he finds out later on. He'll immediately find out whether or not you hid this information or not, and be angry at you if you decided to hold it in. But regardless of what you do, you then start to look for the puppeteer of this gang war, which was, of course, Kingpin. Who else is running crime like that in New York City? So Spider-Man goes over to the Kingpin Tower to try to talk to him, but then he sees Black Cat escaping with just a whole bunch of those high-tech goons on her trail, including ones that have goblin gliders allowing them to fly through the city. You kind of fight Black Cat a little bit randomly with the help of Moon Knight, who just kind of appears, but you end up following Black Cat to her place where you guys kind of talk things out. She said she was undercover at Kingpin's place trying to be a hero, but it didn't quite work out. And then this conversation leads you to another decision here. The red suit decision, the good decision of staying away from Black Cat, deciding to work with Moon Knight to take down Kingpin, and staying loyal to MJ, or the black suit decision of going with Black Cat, working with her, and cheating on MJ with her. It's up to you, the player, what to do. But this was the first game I think this was the first time I ever really saw Black Cat was playing this game, and boy, has she had an effect on me. Black Cat is one of those ones. I mean, god damn. Pixelated as hell looking back, looking at it now, but in the moment, those pixels got to me. And it created a love for Black Cat and toxic women. Something I'm pretty sure most can relate to. But while working with either Black Cat or Moon Knight, you start to take down Kingpin's high-tech criminal missions, fighting different goons, eventually tracking down the creator of these gliders. Not Norman Osborn, not Harry Osborn, not any type of goblin. Vulture is the one making these goblin gliders for him. So you have a boss fight with Vulture, kind of tying him up and leaving. But he must have gotten free. Not because of anything we see on screen of him actually freeing himself. He shows up later free, so one can only assume. And then after the Vulture fight, you go back to fighting Kingpin's goons. But while you fight Kingpin's goons on top of a roof, this is when you are first attacked by humans that are infected with symbiotes. They're all crazy and all super powerful, really strong. They attack you up on the building. Spider-Man just kind of fights them off and runs away, very confused at what's going on. This confusion causes Spider-Man to kind of investigate the cause of this. Obviously, he's suspecting Venom, and as he's looking around trying to investigate, he runs into Wolverine. Wolverine does not think that Spider-Man is Spider-Man because he smells different. This will cause a kind of a boss fight where you can either keep fighting him as like the symbiote decision. This one's not a direct decision that you make, but you can keep fighting him to beat sense into him, I guess, or you can answer correctly to his quizzes, like his quiz questions that he does in the middle of the fight to prove that you are, in fact, Peter Parker. Either way, after this, you kind of start to work with Wolverine to locate these different symbiotes and see what's going on. Spider-Man then tracks down Venom by himself, and we see that Venom is, in fact, taking people in, infecting them with the symbiote, and then throwing them back out, as well as making these little pods that people can get trapped into and turned into symbiotes that way. So you just kind of have another boss fight with Venom, who you beat, who runs away again. But now we know that Venom is out there infecting people, trying to spread the symbiote across the whole city. I guess S.H.I.E.L.D. gets word of this infection, so they come in, they start quarantining different people in different areas and taking people in forcefully into these quarantines. One of the people they forcefully take in is Electro's sister, which causes him to go on an insane rampage looking for her, causing him to have a fight with Spider-Man. Spider-Man beats him, but Electro kind of disappears, but not before getting a symbiote suit himself. Scary thought. He gets the symbiote suit and then is gone. But then after that incident, we see that S.H.I.E.L.D. is pretty much locking down the entire city of New York, Manhattan Island to be more specific. They're closing any tunnels and any bridges for people to leave. The escalation of this situation causes Spider-Man to realize that they need to do something now. They need some super genius to make something that will destroy all the symbiotes but keep everyone safe. He tries to get a hold of different Marvel superhero super geniuses like Iron Man, Hank Pym, Reed Richards, all of them, but can't get in contact with any of them. So he has to break the Tinkerer out of prison, out of Rikers Island, I believe. Now, to get there is a quick decision that you can choose to either go black suit and fly there with the Vulture, or Moon Knight to Rikers Island. Just a small decision. Doesn't really matter too much, because either way, you're going to the island and you're breaking out the Tinkerer. While on the island, you use Rhino to kind of break through different walls to get to the Tinkerer, which then leads to another red suit, black suit decision, where either red suit, you can put the Rhino back into his cell, or black suit, you can let him leave. Again, yeah, he doesn't come up again either way, so it doesn't really matter. But then you have the Tinkerer. You take him back to mainland Manhattan, where the city is now like completely overrun by symbiotes, and there's just small, safe sections that S.H.I.E.L.D. has set up. Black Widow leading these camps. You take Tinkerer to her, and you start to work on a bomb. After some saving of the city, the Tinkerer realizes he kind of needs more than S.H.I.E.L.D. has to offer, so they have to turn to the Kingpin to help make Tinkerer's symbiote-destroying bomb a reality. After some conversation, eventually everyone kind of starts to work together. They start working at Kingpin's tower to make this bomb happen. And then so while Tinkerer is working on this bomb, you kind of fight symbiotes, help with different evacuation missions, and eventually fight symbiote Electro, who has made like special, extra strong little mini symbiote Electros that you kind of fight around as grunts. So you fight him, and you do an evacuation mission with Wolverine, who, once you save everybody from this church, Wolverine tries to keep some of the symbiotes at bay, ends up getting infected with the symbiote himself. So Spider-Man has to go down there and fight him. After beating him, you have a red suit, black suit decision. The red suit decision being allowing Wolverine to get the symbiote out himself, which he does by just cutting it out of himself. Which it doesn't really look like that because there's not that type of violence on the screen. You're kind of inferring that from verbal clues. Or you take symbiote Wolverine with the black suit decision and rip him in half so the symbiote falls out and you just kind of leave him there, pissing off Wolverine. And so then Spider-Man helps out MJ and Luke Cage with an evacuation mission. And then after the evacuation mission, they get attacked by somebody and are like gone. They disappear. And this is what causes Spider-Man to become super angry, looking for him. And this is when we catch up with the first scene we see in the game with a sad Spider-Man looking around the city. We're now there at that same point in the game that the game starts off with. But as he looks through the city, he finds out that symbiote Black Cat is the one that had attacked MJ and Luke Cage, which Spider-Man then fights. And eventually, with the help of MJ, because she's got a little shotgun helping out with little symbiote grunts, Spider-Man beats the Black Cat, who takes a huge hit. She gets really injured during this fight, at the end of this fight. And Spider-Man can either save her one of two ways. Red suit, black suit decision. The good decision of helping her onto the helicarrier, leaving her with MJ to go get normal medical attention. Or the black suit decision of taking Black Cat, infusing her with his own symbiote, and saving her that way. MJ sees this all, and this will piss her off if you do it, ending that relationship. This decision in the game is the only one that has a real direct effect on the ending, either ending up with Black Cat or ending up with MJ, or depending on how your ending works, ending up with neither, depending on how things work out, which I'll explain later. But this is the decision that has the most impact on your ending directly. So, after you do this MJ Black Cat decision, the Tinkerer's bomb is ready, and it's set atop a building ready to go when Symbiote Vulture and his little mini Symbiote Vultures attack this bomb. Spider-Man then goes over there and beats him, and then this activates. It's not a decision you actually get to make, but this is what determines your ending. And your decision is made based on all your decisions up to this point. If you made mostly good decisions, Spider-Man will activate the bomb, let it go off, and destroy all the symbiotes, including his own. Or, if you've made mostly bad decisions, mostly black suit decisions, Spider-Man will destroy the bomb so he can keep his symbiote and rule over all the other symbiotes after Vulture kind of eggs him on to do that. Which is interesting because Vulture was desymbioted when he makes this decision to tell Peter that he should control the symbiotes. I know he's a villain, but I didn't think he's just like comic bookly evil in this game. But either way, based on your decision, apparently, I guess Vulture's bomb didn't get quite everything because Venom is attacking one of the big helicarriers. So this causes Spider-Man to go over there, and then Venom kind of appears. And this causes the final boss fight of the game, where you get to fight Venom. Obviously, Spider-Man beats him. And when I say you fight Venom, I mean, I'm saying like giant kaiju Venom kind of, at one point in this game. But Spider-Man beats him. And then you get one final red suit, black suit decision, which has no effect on the ending whatsoever. It's just, you just get to do this. You could do the red suit decision, where you try to help Brock, but Brock ends up sacrificing himself to destroy the symbiote and, save everybody. Or the black suit decision, where Peter can kill Brock and destroy the Venom symbiote that way. And then that ends the game. Now there's 4 endings to the game. The first ending, if you make mostly good decisions and you let the bomb go off and you decide to stay with MJ, you have the happiest ending, probably the true ending if I would assume, because that's the most Peter-like playthrough. All the symbiotes are gone, you're just back to being normal Spider-Man, and you have the girl, you have MJ with you. Then there's like the anti-hero one is what I heard it called. It's where you made mostly good decisions. You activate the bomb, you destroy all the symbiotes, but you chose Black Cat over MJ. You're just regular Spider-Man by yourself, not even with Black Cat. You're just by yourself. Kind of a sad ending. That might actually, honestly, that one low-key could be the most Spider-Man ending because it's sad and they hate Spider-Man anytime they write a story for him. But that's that ending. And then there's the pure evil one where you make all bad decisions, or at least I guess mostly bad decisions. You destroy the bomb so you can have your symbiote and control all the other symbiotes, and you choose a Black Cat over MJ. You get to be this evil king of New York with all these different symbiotes with symbiote-infused Black Cat by your side. Or if you choose mostly bad decisions and you destroy the bomb to keep your symbiote, but for some reason you chose MJ over Black Cat, you get the ending where you have control over the symbiotes, you're the king of New York, but you don't have any girl with you. And at the ending of both evil endings where you're the king of New York, we see Black Widow, Tinkerer, Kingpin, and Symbiote Wolverine all team up in agreement to kill Spider-Man. And that ends those games. And that ends the story. Honestly, it's a very simple story, and the decisions you make in this game have pretty much no effect, because like I said, there's only one decision that has a direct effect of choosing MJ or Black Cat on your ending. The other ones are the only thing that matters is the accumulation of all the decisions you made. So you can't even have a complex story of picking when and where to be good and when and where to be bad. It doesn't matter about the specific ones you made. It's just the collective of all that makes the final decision. So your decisions are a little less valuable than you would think in this game. One quick note, this is the only time I've seen the symbiote. I'm not a big comic book reader, so maybe it happens there, but see the symbiote so spread out? Because usually anytime I see the symbiote, it's on one person, and it's the connection between the symbiote and that one person. In this game, that symbiote is spread out like Venom has it, Eddie has it, and Peter has it at the same time. I usually don't see that. I see one of them having it at a time usually, and then all the little grunts that have a piece of the symbiote themselves, including Electro at some points, Vulture, Wolverine, all these different characters having the symbiote at the same time, and it's supposed to be the same symbiote. It's just very interesting, and I like that concept. I really do. It's definitely very much a different approach for the symbiote that we've seen in any other media. Again, maybe besides comics, I don't know what exactly goes on in there, but I thought that was very interesting. But not a lot really happens in the story that you can affect, which is always kind of bad for a decision-based game. The more effect you can have, the better the decision-based game is going to feel. So we get points taken away from that. Some great concepts in the game. You love seeing all the different characters interact. Usually in a character's game we kind of see just that one superhero and no one else, but we see Spider-Man, and then we see Black Widow, Moon Knight, Luke Cage, which is very cool. And then some name drops of some other superheroes. But, it's just a really basic game, basic story. Nothing too ambitious, I would say. Nothing too touching towards the towards the player. For that, I give this game, honestly, the story of it, a 5 out of 10. Very simple. Was fun as a kid being able to make decisions and think I was impacting the story, but I just wasn't as much as you think you are. But some really good concepts. Maybe they could explore some of these concepts in some newer games and flush them out a little more, give it a little more depth to everything. This game was pretty straightforward, very fast, things happening very quickly. So yeah, 5 out of 10. So obviously I played this on the Wii, and that's going to hold it back a little bit, but I usually factor that in when I do these reviews. Mostly just hear about art direction, design choices, things like that. And the character designs in this game, I think, are really good. I'm trying to think. Luke Cage probably had the simplest one, but he always does. Once they got rid of the tiara, it's just Luke Cage. He's just wearing pants and a yellow shirt. But, Black Widow looked good. Spider-Man looked good. Wolverine looked good. Venom was great in this game visually, and how he sounded. His voice was really good, really menacing voice. Definitely a really good representation of Venom in this game. I thought he was very strong. But one of the worst representations of Peter Parker in this game. The suits were good. There's like 6 different suits, 8 different suits in this game. Only 1 alternate black suit and then like 5 alternate red suits. Very lopsided, very disappointing. And the alternate black suit is a Carnage suit that just mostly looks like a regular Spider-Man suit. The mask was cool, kind of, but that's about it. But his voice in this game is so bad. It is the worst voice acting for Spider-Man I have heard in any media ever. Extremely whiny. That is what I've seen everywhere. That's how I felt about playing. And then I look at reviews, and yeah, whiny Peter Parker.
Luke! MJ! MJ! Thank God you're safe.
Peter, I've been so worried. Tell me you're free of that thing.
No.
The city looks like New York. Very, it's just New York. Copy and paste of New York into the game with the graphics that it has. Very pixelated New York, but it does look like New York nonetheless. The in-game graphics, I guess, look fine given the system. But I played Shattered Dimensions. I would say that game looked better in-game graphics even at the time. But nothing too crazy. But just, I know it's the Wii. But playing other games on the Wii, I've seen better graphics in-game. But, nothing too outrageous. The cutscenes themselves look kind of just like the in-game graphics, which is fine. A little bit better, in the cutscenes than they do in-game. But it's like it just looks the exact same mostly. And after seeing Shattered Dimensions at a time where the cutscenes look actually genuinely good, it's a little disappointing to see the cutscenes just be kind of meh at best. And then usually I like to talk, I want to start talking about the music in this game, but nothing stood out to me at all about the music in the game, which means, there was no truly bad choices that took me out of my experience with the music. But I never listened to anything and felt anything got heightened by the music. So not much to talk about here in terms of the music used in the game. So overall, for some really good character designs for every character in the game, how they looked, the voices were all really good except for the most important voice, Peter Parker, with decent graphics, decent in-game graphics, okay cutscenes. I'm going to give the visuals for Spider-Man Web of Shadows another 5 out of 10. Honestly, there's actually not much to really talk about in the gameplay because it's very simple and very basic. The game itself is kind of like sectioned off based on the kind of goons you're fighting, the different factions you're fighting at that point in the game, with like the gang member section of the game where you're fighting the gangs there, Kingpin section where you're fighting his armored goons, and then it's the symbiote section where you kind of fight the normal symbiotes, Electro symbiotes, and then Vulture symbiotes. Very simple, and then as you're playing through each section, all the missions are pretty much the same of, hey, destroy this thing that's guarded by a couple of these goons, and then destroy a couple of the goons, a certain number of goons you have to fight. Pretty repetitive, in all honesty. It never felt too bad, but pretty much the same missions no matter what section you were in, whatever faction you were fighting. It was like, destroy this physical object that they're all protecting, and then destroy a certain number of goons. And there were actually like a bunch of boss fights in this game. You fight Venom 3 times. You fight the Vulture, once non-symbiote, once symbiote, Electro, symbiote, non-symbiote, Black Cat, symbiote, non-symbiote, Wolverine, if I didn't already say him, Wolverine, same thing. And the boss fights themselves were honestly very disappointing. And the reason they were disappointing is because the boss fights, like most of the game, the combat really came down to one move that you just have to do. And it ties into this combat section of the game where the combat has 2 upgrade screens, black suit, red suit, and they separate everything out into different combat styles with ground, air, wall, special attacks. But all combat truly was in this game most of the time was this web sling to attack, where you would sling to an enemy, you could either hit them onto the ground or sling off and sling onto another enemy. And that was 90% of the combat you would do in this game. Most of the boss fights were just, you got to get close, you would swing to them with that attack, and then hit them, and then they would move, and you would sling to them again, and then you would hit them. And that was most of the boss fights. Pretty much all of them were doing that move over and over again. Even some of the missions, you would be slinging from one enemy to another just to move to a certain place. That web sling to attack was the most used thing in this game by a wide margin. Most of the combat was that attack move right there. Now, once you're on the ground, you could still kind of do some other combats. I loved using the Black Suit symbiote. It was, his special attacks with his tendril thwips and things like that were definitely, more fun to play than the Red Suit, I feel. But combat was very basic in that regard. But what do you come for a Spider-Man game for? You come for web slinging. And this game has an open world to allow you to do that web slinging. Does it do it well? I'm honestly going to say yes. I am going to say it does do the web slinging. I'm going to say pretty well. I felt very good swinging around New York. You're just very limited in what you can do in the web slinging because it is just slinging. There's not a lot of flips you can add on. Going from a web sling to a wall run doesn't flow smoothly because once you try to transition from one to the other, the camera goes crazy. So web slinging was fun. A little limited, but probably just based on the system and the time. Not a lot of different tricks you can do in the air or different types of web slings you could do. A little spoiled by our modern, PS4 and soon to be, PS5 Spider-Man games. But I think it was definitely good for the time. And honestly, it was still fun now to do that, to do those simple web swings. So, for disappointing boss fights, stale combat that mostly resulted in one move that you just have to spam over and over again, with missions that are very repetitive no matter what section of the game you're in. But it is saved a little bit by really solid web slinging. I'm going to give the gameplay for Spider-Man Web of Shadows a 4 out of 10. That feels fair, a 4 out of 10. When I do these videos, I really like to look back and see the cast of the games. Voice actors maybe not getting enough credit as they deserve, although the first one I'm going to name here doesn't want to be associated with this performance anymore, if I had to guess. We're going to look at the cast of Spider-Man Web of Shadows, starting with Spider-Man himself, Peter Parker, played by Mike Vaughn, who is also Iggy Koopa and Ludwig von Koopa in the new Super Mario Bros. Wii game. I've harped on enough about how his performance was, so we'll just leave it there. Black Cat is voiced by Tricia Heffer, I think is how you say the name. I'm not sure, probably wrong. She also plays Number 6 in Battlestar Galactica. Those Battlestar Galactica women, they like to play Black Cat because her and Katie Sackhoff have both been Black Cat. And she did a great performance in this. It was her Black Cat would get to you. Her voice would get to you. I'll just leave it at that. Luke Cage is voiced by Robert Wisdom, who's also Howard Bunny Colvin in The Wire. Wolverine is voiced by Steve Bloom, a guy who does Wolverine's voice a lot in video games. He's probably the voice of Wolverine. He's also Mephisto in Diablo 4, if you've played that. Venom is Keith. I apologize because I'm probably saying this wrong. Sarbajka? I apologize. Who's also Laser Break in Transformers Dark of the Moon. Kingpin is voiced by Greg Berger, or Odie in the Garfield show. Very different characters. And he does a very good Kingpin in this game. Black Widow is Sally Saffioti. Probably mispronounced that one as well. Or Annie Leibovitz in Watchmen. Electro is Liam O'Brien, or Asura in Asura's Wrath. MJ is Dana Seltzer. I'm going to be honest, it was hard to find another notable thing in her IMDb. It doesn't look like she just doesn't do this much, because there's only a couple of entries in there, one of them being the voice of a gossip girl in Vampire Sucks. Moon Knight is Robin Atkin Downs, or Mr. Pickle Pants in Forky Ask a Question. And then there must be, and I think this is true, there's a huge difference between Spider-Man Web of Shadows, the console games, and then the portable systems, including some different missions and some different characters, as well as it being a 2D side-scroller game, which is a huge difference. But one of those that's not in the console but is in the handheld version is Nightcrawler. And, you know, he's voiced by Yuri, the voice of Spider-Man in PS4 Spider-Man, the new voice of Spider-Man, as well as, you know, a shit ton of other things, but I like to keep it to just kind of one performance. But I just want to say that's why I'm only naming the one thing. And going forward, I'm not going to elaborate on why I'm only naming the one thing. So Spider-Man Web of Shadows is a decision-based game limited by how little these decisions actually affect the story of the game, which leaves the story very basic, but overall it has a great concept. It has fun but basic web slinging to go along with a combat system that is, you know, can be fun if you choose to play it that way, but is truly over-reliant on one move. It has great character designs with really good voice acting, with the exception of the most important role, Spider-Man himself. I think I'm going to give Spider-Man Web of Shadows a 5 out of 10. Very close to being a 4, but I think concept alone, I'm going to elevate it to being a 5 out of 10. Now, should this game come back? I like to say if these old games should make a comeback. And for Spider-Man Web of Shadows, I'm going to say no. The idea of having a decision-based Spider-Man game is great, and I would love that specific aspect to come back. But, I mean, Insomniac, they've shown to know what they're doing with Spider-Man, so I'm not going to touch anything they're doing over there. Going to let them work. What I love, decision-based game, by even just them or maybe a different company, sure. But, man, what they're doing right now is so good. It's so good. I'm going to let them do them. Now, let's take a look at the next game in the series.
A kung fu master is brave, fast, powerful, and has a stomach for adventure.
Now tell me how you felt about this video. What you liked about the video, what you agreed with most, what you disagreed with most, and what game I should do next. Please subscribe for more to come. Go ahead and give this video a like. Thank you for watching, and as always, keep gaming.